Across the rich tapestry of human beliefs, filled with gods, legends, and mystical beings, one name has echoed for millennia: Yahweh, the God central to the Bible. What is it about this name that gives it such weight, such enduring power? Is there a hidden connection between Yahweh and the ancient Anunnaki, those enigmatic beings of Mesopotamian mythology? Could Yahweh be someone or something entirely different than what we've been led to believe? Is he the singular, all-powerful deity worshipped in the Abrahamic faiths? Or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Join us as we peel back the layers in this new episode of Soul of the Scriptures. Welcome aboard. For followers of Abrahamic religions, sacred texts portray Yahweh as a divine architect orchestrating the universe. He's described as the creator of all: stars, life, the heavens, the earth, everything we know and beyond. His name is woven deeply into this grand cosmic narrative. But Yahweh isn't just a name, it's a gateway. A glimpse into humanity's ever-shifting understanding of God and existence itself. Over time, the name Yahweh has left profound imprints on our history, shaping cultures, influencing societies, and defining the spiritual journeys of millions. Exploring Yahweh isn't merely academic. It's like embarking on a journey through time, culture, and belief, searching for clues about who we are and where we come from. So what happens when we dig deeper into this exploration of divinity? Could ancient mysteries resurface, offering new insights into humanity's origins? To find answers, we journey back to the cradle of civilization, the ancient Near East. It's here, in this mysterious region, that the name Yahweh seems to have first emerged. And this is also where another powerful narrative begins, one involving the Anunnaki, gods worshipped by the Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. These ancient deities played monumental roles in creation's stories and early religious beliefs. But here's the question: could Yahweh's story be intertwined with theirs? Is it possible that Yahweh's origins trace back to or were influenced by the Anunnaki? If so, uncovering these links could fundamentally change how we perceive ancient religions, our history, and the beginning of human civilization. There's another layer to this story, though, one buried within the biblical book of Genesis. This ancient tale, obscured for centuries by mistranslations and institutional control, may reveal secrets we've yet to fully comprehend. By the end of this journey, we hope to answer one of humanity's greatest questions: who is Yahweh? And what does the answer mean for our understanding of spirituality and religion? Interestingly, one of the earliest references to Yahweh appears on the Moabite stone, or Mesha stele, dating back to 840 BCE. Commissioned by King Mesha of Moab, the stele celebrates his victory over Israel, a story strikingly similar to one found in 2 Kings 3. There's a twist, though. While the Bible recounts Israel's triumph, Mesha's inscription claims Moab as the victor. Intriguingly, the text mentions Yahweh, portraying him as an exclusively Israelite deity. Mesha even boasts of seizing artifacts associated with Yahweh and offering them to his god Chemosh. Fast forward to 1844, when archaeologist Carl Richard Lepsius uncovered ruins in Celeb, Nubia. It wasn't until 1957, during excavations led by Mikhail Shifkiranini, that a fascinating inscription surfaced. The text referred to the Shasu of Yahweh, etched into a temple column. The Shasu, described in Egyptian records as nomadic Semitic tribes, often labeled as rebels or outlaws, appear linked to the early worship of Yahweh. Could this suggest Yahweh's worship predates the biblical narrative? And if Yahweh wasn't originally Canaanite, where did he come from? One theory proposes that Yahweh began as a desert deity, adopted by the Israelites during their Exodus journey from Egypt to Canaan. In support of this theory, the book of Exodus is rich with fire imagery and depictions of Yahweh guiding Moses to water sources, symbolic of a deity associated with survival in harsh desert landscapes. On the other hand, some argue Yahweh emerged as a minor god within the Canaanite pantheon, only to be embraced by wandering tribes like the Shasu. Regardless of his origins, Yahweh's name itself is a linguistic treasure rooted in ancient Semitic languages. It's often linked to the verb to be, signifying existence itself. Other interpretations suggest meanings like he who creates or he brings into being. By the Middle Ages, the name Yahweh evolved into the more familiar form, Jehovah. Some scholars speculate Yahweh's name also shares roots with Arabic, reflecting his passionate loyalty to his people, a trait echoed in biblical descriptions of Yahweh as a jealous God. Yahweh's journey from a localized desert god to the supreme deity of Israel mirrors broader cultural shifts. His name and nature evolved, transforming from a tribal protector into the singular God of the Israelites, a process intertwined with linguistic, political, and theological developments. In Judaism, Yahweh's name was considered so sacred, it was never spoken aloud. Instead, the consonants Yahuwah reminded readers to say Adonai, or Lord, out of reverence. The story of Yahweh continues to grow more intricate following the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE. During this time, Yahweh's role solidified in Hebrew scripture, as the Israelites envisioned him as the creator, sustainer, and redeemer of all existence. This concept carried forward into early Christianity, where Yahweh was seen as the Father who sent Jesus as the Messiah. In Islam, he became known as Allah. Yet, Yahweh's early history reveals a complex journey. Before the Israelites embraced strict monotheism, they practiced henotheism, worshiping Yahweh as their primary God while acknowledging the existence of others. This concept of Yahweh as the singular, all-powerful deity became even more entrenched during and after the Babylonian captivity in the 6th century BCE. This period marked a significant shift for the Israelites, both spiritually and culturally. Forced to reckon with the loss of their homeland and temple, their faith in Yahweh was reaffirmed as their source of hope, identity, and resilience. It was during this time that Yahweh's divine authority and role were firmly established in Hebrew scriptures. These texts were canonized during the Second Temple period, a transformative era when Yahweh became synonymous with ultimate power, the creator, sustainer, and redeemer of the universe. This understanding of Yahweh as the one true God would soon spread beyond Judaism. Early Christians reinterpreted Yahweh's role, believing him to be the Father who sent Jesus Christ, the promised Messiah, to fulfill ancient prophecies and bring salvation to humankind. For Christians, Jesus was the physical embodiment of divine grace, further reinforcing Yahweh's role as an all-powerful, omnipotent, and benevolent figure. Meanwhile, in Islam, Yahweh would be understood as Allah, a name that also signifies the one and only God, eternal and incomparable. Although the names and details vary across religions, the core idea remains remarkably consistent. A single, supreme being who governs the universe, creates life, and watches over humanity. But Yahweh's story, like all great stories, is far more complex than what appears on the surface. To truly understand his origins and evolution, we must look to the Iron Age, a time when the Israelites were defining themselves, both culturally and spiritually, within a larger world. The Israelites sought to separate their identity from their neighbors, particularly the Canaanites, by elevating Yahweh above El, the chief god of the traditional Canaanite pantheon. However, during this period, the Israelites were not yet strictly monotheistic. Instead, they practiced henotheism, a belief system that acknowledges the existence of other gods but dedicates worship to one primary deity. For the Israelites, Yahweh became that chosen deity, the protector of their nation and the center of their faith. This shift laid the groundwork for monotheism, but was by no means immediate or absolute. The turning point came after the death of King Solomon in 931 BCE, when the once unified Israelite kingdom fractured into two separate entities, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. In Judah, Yahweh's worship took on an even greater significance. He was not just seen as a god, but as the God, the divine protector of Judah and its people. This belief extended far beyond religion. It became deeply tied to their identity as a people, a culture, and a nation. The people of Judah believed they were chosen by Yahweh, and this belief shaped every aspect of their society. Yahweh's influence was felt in their political systems, religious traditions, laws, and cultural practices. The kings of Judah were viewed as Yahweh's earthly representatives, chosen by him to rule and lead his people. This divine connection gave the kings both political and spiritual authority, allowing them to unite their people under Yahweh's banner. However, this relationship between Yahweh and Judah's kings was not always smooth or harmonious. Over time, certain kings, motivated by political ambition, foreign alliances, or personal gain, began to stray from Yahweh's teachings. They introduced foreign gods into Judah's religious practices, blended Yahweh's worship with pagan rituals, and disregarded the covenant that bound the people to their God. Some kings even persecuted the prophets who dared to speak out against these deviations. To the faithful, these actions were seen as nothing less than betrayals of Yahweh, and they believed divine punishment would surely follow. This tension between loyalty to Yahweh and the lure of other gods became a recurring theme throughout Judah's history. During these periods of religious and moral decline, prophets emerged as the voice of Yahweh. These prophets served as the moral compass of Judah, calling the people back to their faith and warning them of the consequences of straying from Yahweh's path. They condemned idol worship, spoke out against corruption and injustice in society, and reminded the kings and their subjects of their covenant with Yahweh. Their messages were often harsh and uncompromising, and they were not always well received. Many prophets faced resistance, ridicule, or persecution for daring to challenge the status quo. Yet their role was crucial. They were seen as Yahweh's chosen messengers, guiding the people back to Him whenever they strayed too far. This raises an important question. Why does humanity continue to revere Yahweh, this ancient deity who emerged from history, as the one true God? What is it about Yahweh that compels people to worship, to pray, to seek blessings, and to offer praise? Perhaps our collective fascination with the divine reflects something deeper, a profound desire to understand the unknown, to explore our own existence, and to unravel the mysteries of the universe. Could it be that our search for Yahweh mirrors our search for ourselves? As if, by understanding the divine, we might uncover something essential about who we are and our place in the cosmos? It feels as though we are opening an ancient door, one that leads into a vast and complex labyrinth of knowledge, whispers of divine truths and cosmic secrets that have echoed across time and space. This journey not only deepens our understanding of Yahweh, but also invites us to consider connections to other ancient beings, like the Anunnaki of Mesopotamian mythology. Could Yahweh's evolution from a regional deity into the monotheistic God of Abrahamic religions reflect influences from the Anunnaki and other ancient traditions? And if so, what might this tell us about humanity's origins and the forces that shaped our civilizations? The acknowledgement that Yahweh was not initially a singular monotheistic deity but gradually evolved into one is key. This evolution challenges us to look beyond conventional narratives and consider broader influences, possibly even extraterrestrial ones, that may have played a role in the development of our beliefs. Yahweh's rise to supremacy happened on two distinct levels. From a human perspective, the shift from polytheism to monotheism was a gradual, centuries-long process. Ancient Israel, like many Near Eastern societies, began with a pantheon of deities. Each city or region had its own patron god, with Yahweh eventually emerging as Israel's national deity. Over time, Yahweh began to take precedence over all other gods, a transformation influenced by cultural, political, and social changes. At the same time, a theological shift was occurring. If we consider the ancient aliens theory, it raises intriguing questions about the divine beings worshipped by early civilizations. Could Yahweh represent a specific entity, or perhaps a group of advanced beings who influenced humanity's spiritual development? During the Late Bronze Age, polytheistic traditions were deeply ingrained across the Near East. Cities and kingdoms alike worshipped pantheons of gods, each linked to specific roles, powers, and geographical regions. Israel, much like its neighbors, initially followed this model. Yahweh was one god among many. However, over time, his prominence grew, pushing Israel toward monotheism. This process, however, was not instantaneous. It unfolded over centuries, marked by gradual social, political, and theological changes. Yahweh's dominance was not just a result of spiritual devotion, but also of shifting power dynamics within Israelite society. Priestly classes, kings, and prophets all played crucial roles in elevating Yahweh to his position as the one true God. At the same time, the ancient aliens theory offers an alternative perspective, one that views this transformation through the lens of advanced beings who may have interacted with early humanity. From this angle, Yahweh's elevation to supreme status raises fascinating possibilities. Was Yahweh a singular entity, Or could his name have been used to describe a group of beings who wielded advanced knowledge and power? The Anunnaki, gods of ancient Mesopotamian mythology, are particularly relevant here. The regions where Yahweh's name first appeared, Canaan, Israel, and surrounding areas, are the same regions where the Anunnaki were once revered. This overlap is more than coincidental. It invites us to explore deeper connections between Yahweh and these ancient deities, potentially reshaping how we understand humanity's earliest spiritual beliefs. Delving into this comparison, we begin to see striking parallels between Yahweh and some of the key Anunnaki figures. Consider the transformation of Yahweh. He is depicted as a warrior, a creator, a savior, and a fatherly figure, all roles that mirror those of various Anunnaki gods. For instance, Enki, the Mesopotamian god of knowledge, wisdom, and creation, bears remarkable similarities to Yahweh. Enki's control over water, metals, and the sciences aligns closely with Yahweh's attributes in the biblical texts. Similarly, Ninurta, the god of agriculture, hunting, and war, shares Yahweh's protective and warrior-like characteristics. These parallels suggest a possible overlap or evolution of these divine figures across cultures. Yahweh's journey from a regional deity to a supreme monotheistic god mirrors broader cultural and theological transformations. But it's important to tread carefully. To claim that Yahweh is merely a reimagined version of Enki, Ninurta, or another Mesopotamian god would be an oversimplification. Instead, it's more likely that Yahweh's identity absorbed and evolved elements from these older traditions, creating something distinct, yet familiar. By studying the nuanced roles of these gods in Sumerian and biblical narratives, we gain valuable insights into how Yahweh's character developed over time. These connections reveal a fascinating interplay between cultures, myths, and beliefs, shedding light on how ancient peoples understood their gods and their world. Among the Anunnaki, Enki stands out as a particularly close match to Yahweh. As the god of wisdom, sciences, and hidden knowledge, Enki's attributes align closely with the biblical descriptions of Yahweh as a wise and omnipotent creator. Enki's mastery over precious metals like gold and silver also echoes Yahweh's dominion over creation, resources, and human civilization. Meanwhile, Ninurta, the Mesopotamian god of agriculture, hunting, and war, shares Yahweh's role as a divine protector and warrior. Ninurta was revered for his strength, courage, and ability to defend his people, qualities also attributed to Yahweh in the Hebrew texts. However, to claim that Yahweh is simply a disguise for Enki, Ninurta, or any other Anunnaki deity would be misleading. The relationship between these figures is far more complex and deserves deeper examination. It's not about direct equivalence, but about understanding how stories, symbols, and divine roles transformed as they moved across cultures and time periods. This leads us to a broader question. How did Yahweh transition from being one God among many to becoming the singular God of Israel? The answer lies at the intersection of human history, culture, and theology. From a human perspective, this transition was driven by centuries of social, political, and religious evolution. The Israelites' experience of conquest, exile, and survival played a significant role in elevating Yahweh to a position of supreme authority. From a theological standpoint, the transformation of Yahweh also reflects a deeper shift in humanity's understanding of divinity. If we consider the possibility of ancient extraterrestrial influence, it raises the intriguing question of whether Yahweh represented an actual being, or even a collective of beings, who guided early civilizations and helped shape their belief systems. This theory gains weight when we examine Yahweh's connections to the Anunnaki. The Mesopotamian gods, Enki, Enlil, and others, were often depicted as powerful beings who interacted with humanity, passed down knowledge, and influenced the development of civilization. The regions where the Anunnaki were worshipped are the same regions where Yahweh's name and influence first began to emerge. The parallels between Yahweh and the Anunnaki gods suggest that these narratives may share common origins. Over time, the stories evolved, adapting to the beliefs, values, and experiences of the cultures that inherited them. Yahweh's character, while distinct, may have absorbed elements of earlier traditions, reflecting the interconnectedness of ancient religions. Yet, it's important to note that not all comparisons hold up under scrutiny. For instance, the Mesopotamian god Ninurta was never hidden or obscured in Sumerian mythology. He was openly worshipped and depicted, with his role and attributes clearly defined. This distinction challenges the idea that Yahweh is simply a reimagined version of Ninurta. One event in particular highlights this difference: the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. In Genesis 19, Yahweh is depicted as personally overseeing the annihilation of these cities, a divine act triggered by their corruption and sin. According to the biblical account, Yahweh descends from his heavenly dwelling and, accompanied by two angels, visits Abram, later Abraham, near Hebron. During this visit, Yahweh foretells that Abram and his wife Sarai will have a son, despite their advanced age. Afterward, Yahweh reveals his intention to investigate the sinfulness of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abram, deeply concerned for the righteous people who may live in the cities, pleads with Yahweh to spare them. He negotiates with Yahweh, eventually convincing him to relent if even 10 righteous people can be found within the cities. Yahweh agrees, but ultimately finds the cities irredeemable. The angels, acting on Yahweh's behalf, urge Lot, Abram's nephew, to flee with his family before the impending destruction. Lot and his family escape to the mountains, but Sodom and Gomorrah are utterly annihilated. Yahweh rains down fire and brimstone upon the cities, destroying their inhabitants and everything that grew on the land. The scene is one of overwhelming devastation. When Abram looks out over the plains the next morning, he sees thick smoke rising from the earth, as if from a massive furnace. This destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah remains one of the most pivotal and memorable acts attributed to Yahweh in the Bible. It's depicted as a decisive judgment, an example of divine justice against rampant immorality. However, this biblical account has striking parallels in Mesopotamian texts, where similar events are attributed not to Yahweh but to other gods, particularly Nergal. In Mesopotamian mythology, Nergal was the god of the underworld, war, and pestilence. He was often associated with destruction, punishment, and calamity. The Mesopotamian records describe an event resembling the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, with Nergal unleashing devastation upon sinful cities. This detail challenges the assumption that Yahweh's actions can be directly linked to gods like Ninurta, as the biblical narrative attributes the destruction to Yahweh himself, not intermediary figures. This distinction reinforces the idea that Yahweh cannot be equated entirely with Mesopotamian deities like Ninurta. While there are undeniable similarities in the roles these gods played, their identities, characteristics, and actions are far more nuanced and distinct when examined closely. In his book, The Divine Encounters, Zecharia Sitchin explores this enigma surrounding Yahweh's identity. Sitchin presents a fascinating and provocative hypothesis that even the Elohim, often translated as the gods or divine beings in the Bible, had a god of their own. At first glance, this idea may seem absurd, but upon deeper reflection, it becomes surprisingly plausible. If we accept that the Nephilim, described in the Bible as powerful beings who descended to earth, were in fact advanced extraterrestrial entities, then it stands to reason that they too may have questioned their origins. Who or what created them? According to Sitchin, Yahweh was not merely an Anunnaki or a member of this group, but rather a divine being whom even the Anunnaki revered. This possibility opens up profound questions. If the Nephilim were responsible for the creation and development of human civilization, as some ancient texts suggest, could they themselves have been created by a higher power? Could Yahweh represent that ultimate divine authority, a being so powerful and transcendent that even the technologically advanced Nephilim acknowledged his existence and influence? This leads us back to the central question of our exploration: who is Yahweh? To answer this question, we must consider both the human perspective, rooted in history, culture, and theology, and the perspective of the gods themselves, as suggested by ancient alien theories. These two viewpoints are deeply intertwined, reflecting the complexity of Yahweh's evolution and the profound impact his story has had on human civilization. The implications of these ideas are immense. If Yahweh's identity is connected to the Anunnaki or other ancient divine beings, it challenges conventional understandings of religion, spirituality, and human history. It forces us to rethink not only the origins of Yahweh, but also the origins of our beliefs, our cultures, and our civilizations. This intricate tapestry of perspectives underscores just how interconnected these ancient stories truly are. The rise of Yahweh, from a local tribal deity to the singular, all-powerful God of monotheism, reflects a journey that is both human and divine. It is a journey shaped by historical events, cultural transformations, and possibly even encounters with beings far beyond our understanding. The exploration of Yahweh's origins, especially in relation to the Anunnaki, also reveals something deeper about humanity's spiritual quest. As a species, we have always looked to the heavens for answers. We have sought to understand our place in the cosmos, to uncover the mysteries of our existence, and to connect with forces greater than ourselves. The ancient aliens theory provides an intriguing lens through which to view this quest. If the Anunnaki were indeed advanced beings who influenced early human civilization, then their relationship with Yahweh and with us becomes a topic of profound significance. Mainstream religions often portray God as a distant, judgmental figure, one who watches humanity from afar, keeping track of our deeds and meting out rewards or punishments as he sees fit. While this perspective has its roots in ancient texts, it can sometimes feel impersonal, disconnected, and incomplete. But perhaps the true essence of spirituality lies not in looking outward, but in turning inward. What if the divine force we seek, whether we call it Yahweh, Allah, or something else, exists within us? What if our fascination with the gods of old reflects a deeper desire to understand ourselves, our origins, and our place in the grand cosmic tapestry? This perspective invites us to explore spirituality as a deeply personal journey, one that transcends dogma and doctrine. It encourages us to see the divine not as a separate entity, but as an intrinsic part of who we are. In this light, Yahweh and the other gods of history become more than figures to be worshipped. They become symbols of humanity's eternal quest for knowledge, meaning, and connection. As for Yahweh himself, his story deserves our respect and careful consideration. Whether viewed as a historical figure, a divine being, or a symbol of cosmic power, Yahweh has played a profound role in shaping our civilizations, our cultures, and even our understanding of life itself. And with that, we bring our journey to a close. Thank you for joining us for another thought-provoking episode of Soul of the Scriptures. Keep your minds open, question everything, and never stop searching for answers. Until next time, we bow to the mysteries of the universe and to you, our curious viewers. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.